Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have a review of Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, the second book in the Farseer Trilogy. Yeah, I can't say too much about this book due to spoiling the first book, but I will say that this book follows the events of the first book and deals with the consequences and fallouts of certain characters' actions within that book, but also explores a sort of war that has been going on since the first book. Now, this book begins in an incredibly darker tone than Assassin's Apprentice. Certain characters are a lot different than they were at the start of the series already, and it was an incredible thing to read. I mean, after the first book I was really impressed with Hobb's writing, but this one kind of cemented it for me in that throughout this book, consequences from the first book are constantly being felt. Sometimes in series, the first book can be forgotten, but in this book, you're feeling the far-reaching consequences of what happened, and you are kind of getting more of a grasp of who the heroes and villains are in this world. Now, in my previous video, I did state that it's great because there aren't really heroes and villains. There's no one is black and white, everyone has their grey areas, and it's great to read, especially when it's a story kind of about court intrigue and, as I said, with these conspiracies and things. It's kind of, you know, you aren't going to expect every character to be good. Every character has a motive, and within this book, the six duchies are further explored, meaning that you are meeting a lot of different characters and seeing what they are trying to do, and you can kind of see affiliations and divide appearing throughout this world. And also a certain character kind of does take on the main, I mean, through reading the first book you can see that they are a bit villainous, but it isn't until the second book that you can truly see the lengths they will go for their villainy. But even then, their villainy, to them, isn't villainy. To them, it is retribution. And it was a brilliant thing to read because so often we are given villains that aren't well-rounded or thought about. And I know there are villains that are thought about, but it just didn't feel to me like there were any that have been thought about as well as this person. And I, again, truly, really appreciate all the characters and the thought that's gone into characters in this series. And it's probably going to be a gushing review again because I truly loved this book. This book for me was a lot better than Assassin's Apprentice. Because it's larger, Hobb has more scope to craft the world and present the world to readers, but also create more character intrigue and focus on certain character relationships. And sometimes I have to say it can be at a disadvantage because sometimes you won't see characters for quite a long time, but it does actually end up standing up to the plot and working for reasons I can't talk about because of spoilers. I thought this book was marvellous. With the first book, I knew that Hobb was a brilliant writer who knew what she was doing. By the second book, I had put my faith into her, so that I knew even though there were 600 pages and there were these characters, and I know I was reading about a darker book with a lot more threat to characters, I kind of had this faith in her that she'd be able to work things out. And this book ended on one hell of a climax that I hadn't expected, I hadn't foreseen. I kind of got to about 500 pages of this 600 page book and characters started plotting something, and I was there like, oh, I can see what's going to happen here, I know what will happen here. And then certain things did happen that matched what I was thinking, but then she completely blew it out of the water with the final climax that I hadn't seen coming, and that was brilliant for me again to read. And I don't know, I cannot thank Hobb enough for writing these books, and once again, it's all Sam Nelson's fault because she talked about these books all last year and now we have the hobb-a-long, and really I am properly invested in these characters. It was also nice to see Fitz talk more to his family and create more relationships there because Fitz is the royal bastard. To me, I was constantly forgetting, well actually, he is related to these people. I understood the villain's reasoning for hating certain characters so much. And it was great to read. And the introduction of a certain wolfish character was brilliant. It was bloody brilliant because Fitz needed a friend the whole time. Like, the first book focuses on the fact that really he doesn't have anybody and he's alienated, and in this book he begins to understand that actually he might be part of the court life, but he is still a bastard and he only serves the king, and the king obviously being his grandpa. But Fitz doesn't actually have any friends his own age. He has father figures and he has mother figures and he has family figures and people taking on these roles for him, but he doesn't actually have any friends his own age. And by the introduction of this character who he can just go and talk to, but with the introduction of this new friend for Fitz, you begin to understand how he feels about the world. It was great to have this look and this exploration of Fitz's wit that we hadn't really seen explored properly in the first book. And also the skill and the wit are talked about more here. The book at the moment and the series at the moment still feels like Hobb is playing the long game. I am still completely invested and wanting to know where this series is going to go and how it's going to progress and what these characters are going to do, and kind of, you know, like, hope that all the characters that I want to live are still living by the end of this series, because there are some characters in there and you're like, yeah, I don't mind if that character ends up dead, or, you know, if they end up sent away to the farthest reaches of Kathmandu. That's fine, send them away, but you know, I want the characters that I like to kind of stay alive and stay with me the longest. So, yeah, please, you know. I have this really big feeling because there's a character that I really, really, really like. I've said this before. I really like this character and kind of feel that they can die. I do. I have this feeling this character is gonna die, and it's all because I like that character. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does happen, well then we will grieve. And it'll be like Dumbledore all over again. But we got over Dumbledore, didn't we? No. I still can't get over the post where people are no, we're not talking about that now. We're not talking about that. Let's just not talk about Dumbledore right now, because we're still not over that. We're still not over Dumbledore's death. No. So yeah. I can't really talk about this book in any great detail apart from the fact that Hobb's writing is still stupendous, that the characters are still great even though they are still feeling the consequences from the first book, which I really believe was a great decision on Hobb's part, and that the climax to this book was truly breathtaking, no pun intended, and yeah. I look forward to Assassin's Quest. So, these are just great stories, great to read, great to explore, and just brilliant. If you do want to talk about these books, please do so. I would love to talk about them, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.